First question with the squad news for tomorrow, please.
Yeah, we're in pretty decent shape. Obviously, you'll be well aware of Giannis' situation. Obviously, he won't be available. Ryan Jack's had a positive week, but won't be involved at the weekend. Same as Namdi. Still waiting for some results from the specialists in terms of Nandi, but should have an update in about 6 or 7 days time on him. Besides that, we're in good health. The internationals have come back in a good place, so we're nearly at full strength, which is positive news.
Yeah, on that, Stephen, the fans were obviously very excited to see Ryan Jack in the European squad. How big is he in terms of not only what he brings as a player, but his personality to the squad?
Well, look, I think you've got to understand how this squad works, because I'm not sure you're totally educated. I had to obviously do a lot of work around it myself. That's not to be disrespectful. It's the Scottish lads that have been trained at a Scottish academy are almost a free pass into the squad anyway. So it's not as if anyone else is put out by Ryan Jack's selection, but I think everyone's well aware of how much I rate Ryan Jack and how much I want him back, because he certainly makes the 11 and the group a lot stronger. But, you know, I think we get around 17 picks that are outside either being an academy trained or a Scottish trained player. So that's unfortunate, because you want to pick everyone. But a lot of the names you'll see in the squad, i.e. the likes of Stephen Kelly, Robbie McCrory, Nathan Patterson, Ryan Jack, Scott Arfield, Alan McGregor, they automatically are in the squad without taking a place anyway.
Hi there. It's the first time we've spoken to you since transfer deadline day. With regards to the business you did, how important was it to hold on to the specific players that there was potential interest in?
I think that will always be the case at Rangers, especially when you're sitting in this chair, or in my shoes if you like. You always want to keep all the best players, the players that are going to give you the best chance of being successful moving forward, and that is a little bit being selfish, but I also understand the side of it of how the business works, and I was well prepared for my phone going at any given moment. If the right bid landed for a player and the board wanted to accept that, there wouldn't have been any resistance as long as they were happy on their side. This club's had some real healthy bids in the last 2-3 windows for our players, and to be fair to the board, they've stayed strong in them situations, because they've just fell short of our evaluations of them players, i.e. Ryan Kent, Alfredo Morelos. We had some bids for Nathan Patterson that were way off his valuation in this recent window. So the reality is, the valuations from me, Ross and the board collectively, no one's hit them numbers. But from a selfish point of view, sitting here, I'm obviously happy in that situation.
On the flip side, you take on St Johnstone tomorrow, and they lost potentially 2 of their best players. But what kind of test are you expecting against Callum Davidson's side?
A very similar test, because I think Callum's proved up here he's been a top coach and a real good manager. He's had instant success, and that's down to how he sets his team up, how organised they are, and what his players give him, which is real honesty, organised. They're prepared to put the bodies on the line for Callum, and within that they've got some talented lads as well who can hurt you, and they try and force mistakes out of you. So without a doubt, going to a place like St Johnstone, us Rangers, which is my main focus, we have to be really at it and at our best to get the 3 points.
Was Nathan Patterson the only bid that you received?
As far as I'm aware, I'm not sure that's 100%. I think that's a question you'd probably have to ask Stuart Robinson and Ross Wilson, but the ones that I'm aware of that were real was Nathan Patterson in this window.
And you mentioned Giannis Hadji there, Stephen. When do you expect him to be available?
Not sure. Trying to go off what the normal situation normally is, which is 10 days. I've not spoke to Giannis today. I spoke to him when I first heard the news, and he never had any symptoms at the time, which was good news. But I'm due a catch up with him at some point in the next 24 hours, so I'll know more then. But he's obviously ruled out at the weekend, and I think he'll be ruled out against Leon if you go on that 10-day period from the test.
Even as you said, it's been a while since we've spoken to you, and I just wanted to take you back to that time out that you had and the situation that you were handed, which was pretty much hopefully a once-in-a-lifetime thing. How did you cope, watching particularly that Old Firm game from the house?
I think you've got no choice but to cope. It's not ideal, and as you say, it's not an experience that I want to experience again. I came here to manage from the sideline. I feel like I can be a bigger help from the side, and you know, I like to be hands-on. You know, I'm here for every session. I could still obviously contribute in terms of the preparation and picking the team and making the decisions, but to do that remotely can be frustrating. But I think for me, the most pleasing thing, what made me the most proudest, was how we all stuck together during them challenging times. It wasn't just me that was missing, there was a few other staff members, some players were ruled out as well, and we were really tested to the maximum. But I thought Michael and Gary stepped forward tremendously well, and the players followed them. So from the outside looking in, it showed the strength of us as a club, that we could deal with adversity, and when we were pushed to the maximum, certainly in certain positions, we coped extremely well. So trying to look at the positives from that 2 weeks rather than the negatives of, you know, being in bed with symptoms, with COVID, feeling sorry for yourself. I had no choice but to just cope and get on with it.
One player I wanted to ask you about, in terms of stepping up, you mentioned that yourself, was Robbie McCrory. How proud were you of the job that he came in to do under the circumstances that he was under, and does he come more into your thoughts now?
Well, he's always been in my thoughts. We've always had a plan for Robbie, and that's not just in the last 2 weeks. You know, the reason we've sent Robbie out on loan and tried to build them loans up in terms of the level and the standard is to prepare him for one day being one of Rangers' 2 goalkeepers. We think he's got the potential to one day be a Rangers number 1, and even more in the short term to be part, you know, when Alan moves on, to be one of our main goalkeepers. So Robbie and his people know our plan. He was outstanding in the couple of weeks, but what I would say is them 2 performances have come on the back of how he's returned on day 1. He's come back in fantastic shape, trained consistently well, seems to be a little bit more maturity about how he's going about his work now. He's smiling, he's enjoying it, so he's in a great place, and I'd have no doubt of using him again at any given time. So credit to him, he stepped forward in real good style, because he was through in at the deep end. But I think his preparation, certainly at Livingston, having the Celtic experience at Livingston, being around the Scotland under-21 group, he was prepared for it in the best possible way, and he delivered.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon, man.
Stephen Kelly had a great game for the under-21s against Turkey for Scotland. In terms of how things are developing with the B team, and also the other route where you get players get out on loan, have you been able to make any assessment yet about the B team as a route to the first team?
Well, listen, I've been pleased with the B team lads that have come over and trained with us. We've had a lot of numbers around us in the last couple of days. I know obviously we had to promote a few around the last couple of games due to COVID situations. We've got a lot of B team players that are knocking on the door to come into the squad. We've decided to keep Steven around the group. We feel the loan opportunities that he had, with all due respect, we feel his development would have been better training every day alongside Stephen Davis's, Glenn Kamara's, Joe Aribo's, and testing themselves against that level of player is the next path for him. And I know he's ready, Stephen. I know he was one of the top players in the international games. We're really pleased with him, but the competition's fierce in the midfield area. I added 2 in the recent window in Junior Bakuna, who's looking really close to being ready. John's training well, and obviously the lads that started in the old firm done a real stern job. Add Scott Arfield and Ryan Jack to that. Stephen Kelly's got his hands full, but he's doing everything he can from his point of view, and he needs to be ready.
Also, with the first team, with Patterson's performance for Scotland against Moldova, I understand he took a wee knock. And then Tav been back in training. Does having 2 such similar players, is that a challenge to you? And in terms of your squad management, or are you seeing it as a challenge to perhaps develop people's games, and being able to fit into defence where you've got that embarrassment of riches in one position?
It was a pretty loaded question, and I appreciate obviously Nathan's a big interest to the media up here in Scotland. He did do fantastically well. I watched the game, albeit it was against Moldova. Nathan's doing fantastically well, and don't worry about his development, because he's up against Ryan Kent most days. If he's not up against Ryan Kent, he's up against Scott Wright. He's got forwards like Jermaine Defoe, Kamar Roof and Alfredo Morelos, who are challenging him every minute of every training session. So Nathan will come through and be the #1 right back here at Rangers when the time's right. He's also ready now to compete for the jersey. He's pushing James in every way, shape and form he can. And I believe it is a challenge in every position because I have got a loaded squad, but that's what eventually will make us even more successful than we have been. But I've got no doubt that Nathan Patterson's in the right place from a development point of view, and also to, you know, he's a Rangers fan. He loves the club. He's happy here. He's settled. And he's more than ready, albeit he's had a kick this week, and we'll have to wait and see whether he's ready for tomorrow.